What's up? How are you guys?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Look forward to playing in the cold Saturday?
Yeah. We haven't really had a cold weather game this year, so I think I'm kind of looking forward to it. I think our players are too. So something different, something unique, and we don't get to do very often. And so I think we're fired up about it and looking forward to. It'll be a good atmosphere. I've coached in that stadium before. They got a really good fan base. The way the stadium's designed is kind of right on top of you, and so it'll be and it's a big game, for them. I mean, for bowl eligibility, senior day, all the stuff, and so it's going to be that team will be excited to play, and we got to do a good job of not letting the elements, whatever ends up happening, if it rains or if it's cold or snow or whatever, that stuff needs to bother us. So it's going to be a challenge for us this week, just mentally, to not letting that stuff affect us. But I like this team's maturity and feel like that they're going to, just worry about going out and playing.
Consensus from the guys we talked to just a few moments ago is that Cincinnati's better than the record. What has stood out about their Cats on film?
Yeah, I mean, they are for sure. I mean, you look at them, they were 5-2 and had just beat Arizona State, who has turned out to be a good football team. And, they hit a tough spot in their schedule. I mean, they've played some really good football teams, mostly teams at the top of the standings the last couple of weeks. Iowa State, Colorado, Kansas State, all those teams have been really successful, and that's kind of been their schedule here down the stretch for the most part. And so, it's a good team. They're balanced. I think that they don't have a lot of weaknesses. I think some of the teams in the Big 12, you say, well, this team's really good on offense, not as great on defense. This team struggles on a defense and not great on offense, or whatever. And so they're to me a solid football team. They're good on offense, kind of built around a physical offensive line and a running back that plays physical and finishes runs. And the quarterback's really played well. I think he gets better all the time. I'm impressed with his physical skills, but he does a nice job managing the game as well. And then, defensively, they're 3 down. Defense that historically has been tough on our offense, and so it'll be a big challenge for us. We're going to have to play physical. I think that's going to be important for us, is to win the line of scrimmage. It always is, but I think even more so this week. And we're going to have to be patient. They do a great job of taking care of the ball, which we've talked about a bunch, but that's going to be even more magnified, I think, in this game. So, big challenge, but again, looking forward to it.
Did you guys spend much time looking at Sorsby when he was coming out of Lake Dallas, and what makes him good now that he's at Cincinnati?
Yeah, I mean, we did. I think like anything else, he's really developed. You know what I mean? You looked at him and you said, well, what can he turn into? And I think he's turned into a really, really good football player. I think his skills are really good. I think he's got, you just look at his makeup. He's got a huge arm. he can make, big time throws. He can throw it in windows when he needs to. He does a nice job of making good decisions, checking the ball down. Again, good game manager, which is a very, very high compliment for somebody, but really physically gifted. I think probably more so than a lot of people thought coming out of high school. And so to me, that's what he's done. He's just developed and honed his skills and gotten better and has turned into a really, really good quarterback. I think one of the better guys in the Big 12.
Were you kind of surprised he didn't get an offer until his senior year?
Yeah, the funny thing about recruiting, so much of it has to do with where do you go to school and how much exposure, and do you have a private quarterback coach, and all this stuff. And so there's always really, really good players. When you look around the Metroplex, some of the best players and some of the most productive guys are guys that really didn't come on the scene until their senior year. And so there's a number of those guys in the DFW area that's probably as heavily recruited and evaluated as any place in the country. And so I'm not surprised that it happens. I think that oftentimes when you go back and you look at your recruiting class, usually the last 3 or 4 guys that you take end up being the most successful, because those are the players that kind of came on late and improved and weren't maxed out at a young age, or maybe went to programs where they didn't get as much exposure, or might have missed some time their junior year, whatever the case may be. So a lot of really, really good football players kind of fly under the radar. And so I'm not surprised that he's turned out to be as good as he is.
When it comes to some of those under the guys, how much of an advantage is it to be in a place like DFW where you're close by and you have more options?
Yeah, I think it helps. I mean, it certainly helps because, this film is going to get evaluated. When you play at Lake Dallas, you're going to play against good competition, and people are going to evaluate not only your players, but you guys that you're playing against. And so you're going to have an opportunity at some point to show what kind of football player you are. And I think that's, again, the good thing about being in the Metroplex. And as I said, there's a number of guys that have turned into, I think, some of the best players in Dallas that are, DFW, that people didn't know about, 2 months ago. And that's certainly the case with some of the guys that we're recruiting. And, they kind of came on the scene late and for whatever reason, nobody knew about them. A lot of times it's because maybe they didn't have a great junior year, they played behind somebody, maybe they were banged up, whatever the case may be.
You said he was an All-American 2 years ago, All Big 12. What makes him just so special?
Well, a big, strong, powerful guy. When you turn the film on, you kind of go, whoa, that's a dude. He very physical, plays in the offensive background consistently. Can eat up both gaps. Kind of your prototypical nose guard. I think the odd front defense that they run is perfect for him. And his skill set and what he can do. And when you have a big body like that can, knock the center in the backfield and create penetration, it's hard. I mean, it makes your run game more difficult. If you're trying to pull guys, all of a sudden they're running into penetrators, and it can really destroy the flow of your offense. And he does a tremendous job of doing that. I mean, he plays with great leverage, very powerful, very strong. I'm impressed with how hard he plays, and just incredibly productive guy.
Coach, we talked a little bit on Saturday after the game. The parity in this league is small. That you don't see a whole lot of games that are multiple score wins. But you guys have done that the last two games. How good is your football team right now?
Well, I think we're improving. I think this is a good football team when we play good. You know what I mean? I think that's kind of been our thing most of the year. And fortunately, down the stretch, we've played better. And what I mean by that is just do the things that you have to do to win. In other words, take care of the ball offensively, create some disruption defensively, whether it's turnovers or negative plays or pressure on the quarterback, whatever that may be. And so I think we've improved in that way. Obviously, we're defending the run better last couple of weeks, which is really, really important, I think, to win in football games. I think our team has gotten better. I really think this group is unique because I do think we have improved, from week 8 to 9 to 10 to 11 and hopefully to week 12. And football teams don't always do that. A lot of times you get to 7 or 8 weeks in the season and they kind of plateau and they just stay where they are. And I think this group continues to get better. And, a lot of that is because of the way that they work. They practice hard. They practice at a high level. They compete. They make each other better. I'm just impressed with the work ethic of the guys and, how important it is for them to play at a high standard, and try to not pay attention to our opponent, just understand that, hey, look, this is our standard. We want to play as well as we can play. And this group has tried to do that every week. And so I've been impressed with that.
I don't know if you saw it or not, Coach, but it's kind of off topic, but there was a situation this week where a player shoved in the fish.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
You as a coach, what's kind of your thoughts on it?
Yeah, golly, I have I got some really interesting thoughts about that. Probably not going to share them, but that's a tough situation kind of for everybody. You just hate to see something like that happen. It can be an emotional game, and I think that all of us, players, coaches, all of us kind of got to try to handle that emotional stuff as well as we can. And then it's like anything else, I think, we've got to, understand that there are certain things we can and can't do. And so anyway, I think that, I don't know, it's a tough situation. And as I said, kind of probably better for me not to comment too much on it.
It is understood, though, that officials are off limits, right? Do you tell that to your guys?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I can't do that. You want to see coaches and players and everybody held to the same standard. You want it to be consistent across the board in terms of how instances like that are dealt with, and you hope that the conference does a good job of being consistent, and that's kind of your hope.
So we're going to stay on big topics. Hall of Famer Mack Brown.
Yeah.
No longer
Yeah, I saw Mac is retiring and moving on. Kind of a tough day for college football. Obviously, Mac was incredibly successful coach at Texas and in North Carolina. I mean, did a tremendous job at North Carolina. Has won there 2 different times in his tenure there, and had a great run before he went to Texas, and then kind of restored the program the second go around. A tough day, just because for me and in my generation, it was kind of an iconic figure. A lot of ways, kind of the, one of the most revered people in college football. Somebody that if I had questions about through the years, I would call and bounce things off of him. He's always been really, really good to me, and I always appreciated it. He was tremendous to my dad. When my dad retired and lived down in Horseshoe Bay, Mac really made him feel like he was part of the Texas program. He came to a lot of practices, traveled with the team. Mac really went out of his way. Mac and Sally both really went out of their ways to make, my mom and dad feel special and appreciated, had a really good friendship. Mac and R.C. Slocum and my dad would go to North Carolina and spend some summers together. And so tough to see him, leave college football. I think he's, certainly made the game better, had a lot of class. I think set the standard for all of us when it came to, how we dealt with players and how we respected the game. And so, hate to see him leave, but I'm happy for him that he gets to go enjoy Sally and looking forward to what's next with him. And hopefully we can, get him out here to Fort Worth and come spend some time and hang around the program a little bit.
Didn't he reach out to you during the 22 season?
Yeah. No, Mac was great. He would have texted me every week, and he'd say, "What are you doing? Don't do this your first year. Don't you understand? It's gonna make things really, really difficult if you win every game your first year." There's a lot of truth to that. Yeah, but he would text me every week, and he'd be like, "You might want to mix in a couple of losses here and there." So I always appreciated him reaching out, and like I said, he's been a good friend for a long time, and just have a ton of respect for him.
Think about one of the places he's been, Texas, been playing A&M.
Yeah.
That rivalry in a while. How important is that rivalry to college football, and then how important generally is rivalry to college football?
Yeah, I mean, certainly the Texas A&M rivalry is kind of an iconic one. And I'm happy, I'm not happy that Texas left the Big 12. Not happy that particularly A&M left the Big 12. Would love for those 2 teams to be in the Big 12 and playing that game as a rivalry in this league, which they did for a number of years, and it was a very big game at that time as well. Yeah, I mean, college football is changing, man. Just a lot of stuff changing. A lot of the regional stuff has disappeared, and I'm happy that this has been rekindled. I think it's good for the game. I really do believe that, and especially playing it late in the season like they're doing. I think that's kind of honoring the tradition. And, it's just something that has made college football unique and different, I think, is the tradition of the game. And so, I think that it's an important part, of what's going on, and certainly in the state of Texas. I mean, I've been to that game a number of times in my life, when my dad coached at Texas, and then, I've been to that game a number of times when I coached someplace and we finished before Thanksgiving. And I went and saw my mom and dad who lived down in the Austin area, and wherever I was coaching, I'd always drive up and go watch that game. And happened to be one year, I guess I was at Texas Tech at the time, I think after the bonfire, a tragedy that happened at Texas A&M, went to that game. And you talk about an emotional thing to be a part of and something I'll remember the rest of my life. It just that environment at Kyle Field that day was pretty special and unique. And so yeah, I think it's a great rivalry, and I'm glad they're playing it, and I think it's good for college football in the state of Texas.
Coach, you talked about going to Cincinnati, coaching there, and you faced them when they had one of their good quarterbacks. Do you remember which one it was?
Yeah, it was the one that got drafted really high. I can't remember his name. It was the year they played the college football playoff. Yeah, Desmond Ridder. There we go, Desmond Ridder. Yeah, they had Desmond Ridder, and they had Sauce Gardner, and they had they had a really, really, really good football team. A couple of really nice tight ends that played a while in the NFL. Just a really outstanding, good football team. And that's the year they got in the college football playoff.
Is Fickle's son on the team still?
I don't know for sure.
Anything else for Coach?
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate y'all being here over the holidays. Have a good one.